Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before I get to our guests here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. We greatly appreciate it. We have Xavier Valdez of the band Mr.Call on the show with us. Xavier, great to have you on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory on what inspired you to get into music and what sort of was your driving force behind that?
Yeah, totally. I'd love to. So about 3 or 4 years ago, I used to want to be a cop, and I was kind of like confused of how to go about the process, and I didn't really have a career, but at the same time, I was still playing music and paying for bass lessons and just like wanting to get better at that. So my parents kind of sat me down one day and were like, "Hey, like, what are you doing? Because you're not really pursuing the music or not the music, the police thing, and you're kind of just floating right now." And I remember like earlier that week, I was in my kitchen eating, and my friend's band. Um, so three of my friends' bands have been doing really well. So the first band that came out of where I live, Newberry Park, is the Neighborhood, and they had like that hit single "Sweater Weather."
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to high school with all those dudes.
Oh, wow.
Um, and then the second band that I recognize is Bad Sons. My friend Ray Libby is out of Newberry, and they're doing really well. And so when I was sitting down in my kitchen, I'm eating, and one of my other friends' bands called Honey, they came out with a single called "Cry for Me." I listened to it, and I'm thinking like, oh my god, like I need to do this. Like I've been playing music for so long in high school, and just the like my entirety of high school, and I think I was just scared to join a band or do anything or jam with anyone. I was just insecure and not really confident in my playing. So when they sat me down, I was already in the mode of like I need to make music. So my stepdad was talking to me, and my mom was right there, and we were just it was kind of rough. And then they're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, what do you think about me playing music?" And my dad was just like, "Well, I've always seen you as an artist." And that was it. I was done. I was like, I'm out of this police thing. I was like, it was so clear to me. I'm like, okay, I'm out. Okay, I'm saying. I told him I'm gonna make music. I don't know how to go about this or what I'm gonna do, but I know I'm gonna make music. And it was a good talk. And my mom was pretty against the idea. She wanted me to be a firefighter or something instead. And I really have no interest in that. So it started in 2016. I started looking for people to play with. I was on Craigslist constantly, just looking at bands or checking out bands and listening to SoundClouds, listening to band camps. A lot of bands weirdly are like imitating like older sounds. Me, I'm an indie person, so I like a lot of like washed out lyrics with reverby guitar. But there's no real money in that. Like it's all like repetitive, and everybody's doing it. Everybody's doing something different, but there's a lot of the same stuff going around. So I just needed people to play with. So I contacted these two people that were living together all the way in Van Nuys. With who they came out with the worst ad I could find on Craigslist. It said to a duo looking for bassist who can also play funky. And the person who wrote it was from Belgium, so his
Oh.
English wasn't great. So, yeah, so I was like, I answered it. I said, okay. I went over to the rehearsal spot. The guys could play their instruments, and I was like, okay, this is cool. And I was very direct with them after a few times playing, saying, hey, I want to do this like for real. Like this is what I'm gonna do. And they seemed on board with it. So like we started a trio where I was actually writing most of the songs, like lyrics and melody. And I've never written before, like at all, at all. I was writing it on my acoustic guitar and then transferring it somehow to the bass with just root notes and like, hey, this is what I have, and like let's work this out. And it worked like that. But it became more of like a jam band more than like an actual like it. We had songs and lyrics, and I was trying to make it into like where we can have a collection of songs, and no matter how bad, like we just had a collection of songs, but we needed a singer because my voice isn't great. If you can't tell, my voice is very deep, so I don't sing that well. And I try to sing high, so
Yeah.
it doesn't really work out.
Yeah.
So we went through like a list of singers, probably 11 or 12, before we ended up uh, getting contacted by this guy named Joe Taylor, who had a bunch of stuff on YouTube, and we liked his stuff, so we brought him in. And I think by the second rehearsal, without my previous drummer telling us, he said, "We want this guy." He just said, "Hey, do you want to join our band?" I'm kind of looking around in the jam room, like I'm like, okay, I guess he's in our band now. Like, this nothing was discussed, but it was everybody was pretty on board with it anyway. I liked him a lot, and he had a professional attitude, so I was really happy with it. So he was basically taking all my songs that I had written and trying to work with them and like add his own twist to it. And at the time, in the beginning, it kind of hurt. Like, what are you doing with my songs? These are my songs, and you're like doing all these things with them, and I didn't like it, but like you kind of have to take a step back and be like, okay, you're in a band now. This is what happens. Like, people are gonna step on toes, or things are gonna change, like consistently change, and you just got to be ready for it.
Yeah.
So we became Silver Pup. Like I said, it sounds like a high school basketball team. We're the Silver Pups, yeah.
Yep.
But we just needed to like get all these songs down and start just exposing ourselves to the LA scene and play as many shows as we could. And that's what we did. That's exactly what we did. We built an image of like this harder uh, rock slash pop band, but I always wanted to lean more on the electronic side. Um, Even still being like an indie person, I really like the elements of like synth and like just background noises that no one really uses, just for like texture and colors for songs. Our guitarist and drummer were really more on the rock side. Our drummer really liked Tool, and our guitarist really liked, uh, I'm sure he still does, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Royal Blood, and Guns N' Roses. Like his thing was like Red Hot Chili Peppers for sure, which is kind of annoying and kind of ruined kind of ruined Red Hot Chili Peppers for me. But yeah, we were just writing songs, and it got to the point where we needed to take another step up. So we our singer Joe says, "Hey, what do you guys think about adding synth to the band?" And we were all, of course, like, "Yeah, hell yeah, let's do it." So we're putting that out. Craigslist, looking for a synth player. We tried one dude out who was a mutual friend from the band Honey. Brought him out, tried him. At this time, we had a lockout space over somewhere in the industrials of like Saticoy or something. It was very, like, the place was cool. To get there, not cool. It was very strange. It was like a strip club, and like way down the road, it's like liquor store, and then here's our rehearsal space. We tried him out. First dude, I think his name was Jared. Didn't really vibe with him. He made a lot of weird '80s synth sound to the songs that didn't really fit. And then the second person that we got contacted by was Luke Freilich, who actually lived in San Diego, but he was looking for a band or an original project. We brought him in, and we some of the sounds he was working with were cool, and some were not. So, but I got that he was willing to work, and I wanted him. I was like, if he's willing to put in the work and work on his own time and do all this stuff to make the songs better, yes, this is exactly what we need. And so we brought him on, and now we're a five piece. So we got a front man, bassist, guitarist, keyboardist, drummer, and yeah, everything's great, right? Wrong. Bands have drama. Everybody has drama. Bands always have drama.
Hmm.
I didn't know that going into this, but you never know what to expect. Like, like I knew bands break up and blah blah blah, but you never know really why, like what, like behind the scenes. Sometimes they don't say. Well, our guitarist at the time, he wasn't really like up to par with what we needed him to do. He wouldn't take criticism well, and yeah, I don't know. The dude's a nice dude, very very cool. I love. He became a really good friend of mine actually, but just when it came to the music, he didn't rehearse or practice the way he needed to. Or we're trying to make pop songs now instead of like this whole just rock element. We're trying to make hits. Like we want to make a "Sit Next to Me" by Foster the People, or like a "Sweater Weather" by The Neighborhood. We want to make something like that that'll like grab people, and not just like a alternative rock band. We want to be something. So my singer would actually brought me to a licensing expo, and we were talking about the band and like all the fun stuff. But then he goes, "You know what? Like, we talked to our guitarist. We had already talked to our guitarist about trying to improve his style and trying to familiarize like why his parts are should only be limited in certain sections of the songs. Learn to not play. Less is more. All this stuff to like basically don't play your guitar as much, dude. It's kind of annoying." Like at the licensing expo, my singer Joe says, "Hey, dude, like I love Martin, love him to death, but I just really don't trust him. Um, like I don't think he can improve because like this he has this weird attitude of if we say anything to him, he'll get really upset and like kind of say things under his breath and kind of just be whatever about it. But that's kind of how he like carried himself anyway. He was a he would work hard for what he wanted, but like I think with music, I think he thought he knew better for some reason.
When it came down to picking an instrument, what was the main basis for you choosing the instrument that you did? Was it a lot of trial and error, or did you always want to play it?
No, actually, my friend in high school, who was one of my best friends, actually, he was very very close to me. He played guitar, and I was like, he would be over at my house a lot, and he'd be playing. He's an amazing player. Um, and I told him, "Hey, dude, teach me how to play guitar." And he said, "Okay, yeah." So he like helped me out a little bit, but then he said, "You know what? You should play bass." And I said, "Why? I don't even know what that is." Like I didn't know how to play bass. I don't even know what the bass was. I just know guitar. He's like, "Go get a bass and learn that because it's cool." So I'll play guitar and you play bass. And then I said, "Okay." And so I made my mom take me to the music store and buy me the cheapest bass they could find, or I could find, and a small amp. And I took it home and like I just started learning to play from YouTube, honestly.
So when you were starting with the bass, did you find that your background in guitar really helped you when it comes to bass? Because we've had plenty of bass players. Actually, drummers and bass are our two most popular guests that we've had on. But when it comes to bass, did that experiencing guitar help you out at all when it came to bass?
No, not at all. I mean, the strings were bigger, which was nice, and like it's very big. So like, but as far as like the sound on the bass, I'm playing one note, and I'm like, this kind of sucks. Like I don't know what I'm doing, and I have to go on YouTube and like try and figure out how to play this instrument that I don't know what I'm doing. And it eventually like I got the hang of some songs just by looking on YouTube and going over the tracks, and that kind of was like a little like light in my head. I'm like, okay, now I know what this is. Now I can figure this out, and it kind of just started sticking with me after a really long time. So
Yeah, yeah. I always love to say, bass players are kind of known sometimes as like the redheaded stepchildren of the band. They don't really get
yeah,
enough credit. They kind of get they get wrote on all the time by other band members. I love to bring that up, but when it comes down to being a bass player, what would you say is the most underappreciated thing that you provide for a band when it comes to the general public? Because when the general public looks at a bass player, they don't tend to realize just how important bass is in a band.
right, most underappreciated thing I'd say. Um, you know what? Your bass player could surprise you because I've I do songwriting with my singer actually. I'm one of the main songwriters and melody, and I make a lot of calls with just how it sounds because I'm very particular on stuff like that. So as far as songs in the bass lines in the songs, I mean anybody could do the stuff that I could do, but it's just how you fit it into the song and how it falls into place is what makes it a good song.
I always say that if you were to take out the bass from all the most important songs that you love and enjoy, they would not sound anything like it. They would probably sound
No,
worse.
no.
They would sound so much different whenever anyone ever brings that up. So, everyone, there are ways that you can do that. Like, go on YouTube and look up songs without bass. They are nothing like you've heard, and they make the songs worse 99.9% of the time. So, bass is a
Oh, totally,
huge aspect.
totally.
Absolutely. So, you guys were known as Silver Pup, but then you went to
Yeah,
Mr.Call. What was the reason
yeah.
behind changing your name, and how did you come up with Mr.Call? Is there a story behind that?
Yeah, actually there is. So, yeah, going back to the original story, we ended up getting rid of our guitarist. I was nominated to fire him, and I'm not I'm not very confrontational at all, but we just needed him out of the band. He had a very kind of weird attitude and couldn't take criticism, and after just like small things that kind of led to like the end for him. Which I mean, I love the guy, but like I haven't seen him since we fired him. And we wanted to bring a new guitarist in who understood what it's like to make pop music and also be in a rock band. So and we told ourselves like we need to change the name from Silver Pup because we need a good name. And so we were going through lists and lists and lists and lists and there's actually this band called Sir Sly that my singer and I really like. But if you put it together, it looks like seriously. So originally, Mr. Call, like my singer's wife, I called him about this name, and she said, "What about Mr. Call?" Because like if you kind of piece it together, it's like missed her call. It started off like that as just like a funny pun, but it became a thing where we everybody in the band from like different walks of life can come together. Think of Captain America, but music form. Mr. Call. That's us. We come together. We join forces. We make this awesome sound that you know whoever in the band can make at the time. Just different backgrounds of life, different musical tastes, try to make one sound come out. It's pretty interesting, and that's how you find with any band. So yeah,
Absolutely. And anyone who's out there wondering how we got in contact, if you go back and watch our podcast with Celeste, she recommended this after we did our podcast. And she said that these guys are really, really going to be huge. She absolutely loves them. So, again, shout out to Celeste for recommending this and setting this
thank
thing
you,
up. We
Celeste.
really, really appreciate Yeah, thank you, Celeste, as well. And we love to hear first show stories. What was the first show like when you guys played together as a band? Where did you guys play and how did it go?
First show that we played as a band was in downtown LA at this one bar. It's actually a cool venue. I think it was on a Sunday or a Monday. I was nervous, extremely nervous, because I had never played a show, but I invited a bunch of my friends who ended up coming, and it was cool. It was Silver Pup at the time. It was the original Silver Pup, the four piece, and the experience was great. I really wanted to keep playing after that. Like, okay, I want to play bigger venues. I want to play all these shows, and yeah, it was just a lot of fun. We try to really sell ourselves too,
Yeah.
and yeah,
One of the big questions that I love to ask, probably my favorite, is not too many people get to experience that thrill of performing live that musicians get to. I mean, it's one of those things that very rarely will you ever get to, unless, I mean, even if you do like a karaoke or something like that, there's nothing compares to going on stage, performing live, having that just positive reaction that performers usually get from the audience, and you practice these songs hundreds of times, and then when you're finally able to perform them live and get that reaction, what is that feeling like for you personally?
it's great. We worked really hard on the songs, and I want people to like the stuff that we're coming out with, but at the same time, not everybody's gonna like it. Everybody's a critic on everything. Me especially too. I find myself on Spotify playlists like going over songs like, oh, I hate this. This is awful. But I appreciate hard work, and yeah, you can't hate people's work in these songs. You can hate the song, but like just the time and effort it goes into making something is just is really nice, and I'd hope people like would understand that when we're coming out with new stuff, like this is what we're trying to do, and this is the music, the sound that we're trying to make, whatever sound it is, you know.
Mhm.
So
And
yeah.
when it comes to performing live, do you guys have any pre-show traditions? Like we've had some bands on here that, they like to take a shot, they like to have a couple of beers, or they like to stretch. Do you guys have a specific tradition before you guys go on stage, or do you guys just like to wing it when you get there?
No tradition, but we do try to set up. We get there. We when it's time to set up, we set up as fast as we can. We don't like lagging or just find you play with yourself all the time. You better have it set up and ready to go within 5 minutes, if that. Even less than that, honestly. And then we set up, and ideally we get off the stage and kind of just hang out for a second, talk amongst each other, and then we get back on, and then that's it, show mode.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
Yeah, we get a lot of that as well. And when it comes to your lyrics that you write, where do you get your main inspiration? Because like you said, you had plenty of lyrics already written before you got the other guy in the group that you kind of collaborated with. But what is your
yeah,
inspiration mainly from lyrics? Is it day-to-day stuff? Is it stuff that you might hear on TV? Or how do you get your inspiration?
it's honestly some stuff is personal, some stuff is just what I had in my head that day. There's a single that we came out called Salem. That one was very, very personal to me. I flew out to see someone in Oregon. Everything blew up in my face. It was all just, it was all just a mess. But it came out a great song. Regardless of the aftermath, I came out with a good song, and I had my singer help me out with the chorus. But if you were to go back and listen to that song, just pay attention to the lyrics. It's all everything I wrote and the verses. So yeah, it's a
I'll definitely give that a listen to, and then I'll
yeah,
try to. I'll
but
see. I'll see if I can crack the case. We'll see. So, yeah.
uh, for Ghost though, also another personal one. It's about bullying. How some people get bullied in high school. I was too. From some When I was a freshman, I got bullied by some junior. It was just this long thing, this dragged out thing. But when writing the song, I originally had it. I wanted it to be about like kind of like a fantasy kind of thing where some kid ends up killing himself. But I kind of just kept it true after a while, and it was just about that time in high school, and kind of just like the negative aftermath of like your insecurities getting to you. But then in the song, it's just like, you know what, they'll still be there, but you're not my ghost anymore, and that's kind of what we try to sell. Like, I'm done with you. That's it.
That's great. And that single just got released, and I'll leave a link down below where everyone can go and check that out. I love doing that. And have you ever I've always asked this question. We've had one guy that said yes, but there's always that trope in movies where the lead singer or the guy who comes up with the lyrics has a dream where he dreams up the perfect lyrics and then he wakes up and he's like, "Oh my god, I got to write these down." Has that ever happened to you?
No, he's done that uh with just instrumentation. I've done that too myself, where I had something in what I was dreaming about, like a certain sound of how I wanted some song to sound, and it was just in my dream. And when I woke up, I remembered it for like 20 minutes, and then next thing you know, you're doing things throughout the day. That's it. It's gone forever. So lyrics, no, but actual music, yeah, like instrumentation, yeah, how something is gonna sound.
And when you're on stage, does time really seem to speed up or does it seem to slow down, or can it be like a mixture of both?
No, it's really fast, honestly. It seems to go super fast. Like the first song starts, and then before you know it, that's it's it. We're on our last one, and I'm just like, damn, damn. I wish I knew how to play a 2 hour set.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, somehow some of those artists do that and then their 2-hour sets probably seem like nothing to them. It's just
Right.
amazing to me. And to you, what constitutes a good show? Because I've always kind of like to give out the scenario of when you're playing a show, you might have played the shittiest show ever. I mean, you might just be totally off, but if the audience really, really enjoys it, some people still consider that a success. When it comes to you guys, if you're playing like a really badly and the audience still appreciates it, would you consider that a successful show? And then the opposite, if that happens, if you guys played the best show you guys think you've ever played, but the audience doesn't enjoy it, do you still consider that a best show as well?
That's weird. I've never really delved into that myself, because I've played some shitty venues, like very, very bad venues. and we still the outcome of all these shows, and like just how the audience reacts is always really positive. And I've had nights where I played pretty shitty, and I'm just like, shit, I ruined that song, or blah blah blah. But as long as we keep it professional and we still do our best, we know the songs. There's no reason for us to like get super down on ourselves. So it it's more of a reactions I go off of. And if the audience hated it, then maybe they're too old, or I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But
I
you
mean,
can't
yeah,
hate the songs.
absolutely, yeah. I mean, we get all that all the time. It really is just about, if you enjoy it and if you think it's great, then I mean, then it is, because all these people that start these bands, they kind of lose that fact where they just try to please everyone, but then they just don't
Yeah, of
realize you're not going to please everyone. You're going to have haters no matter what. I mean, even the Beatles have haters, for God's sake. I mean, so
course,
you
of
can't you
course.
can't be perfect. So it's just about accepting that, and that's one of the big things we like to talk about. And also, I love to ask this question when it comes to song titles. I love to ask bands this. I mean, there's usually two ways where bands come up with song titles. The first is that they have the lyrics already written, and then from the lyrics they sort of take a song title out of that. They choose what some of the best lyrics are and then do that. Or the less popular version, but some people still do it, is they have a song title already written and then they write the lyrics based off of that. What method do you guys use, or is it sort of a mixture of both?
I personally use the lyrics first,
Hmm.
lyrics everything first, because we can do verses, we can do pre-choruses or breakdowns, and kind of just figure out what the song is going to be about depending on the lyrics, and then we come out with the title. Very rarely have I done the title first and then the lyrics, because then like, well, now you have to write to this title that is kind of it just seems like an entrapment for yourself. So
Yeah.
I used to just write on the acoustic guitar and then come out with the lyrics, which is I think is worse for me now, because I'd rather have lyrics and just fit it into everything else. But that's just how I operate. So
Yeah, we get so many different options. I mean, we had one guy who just basically he already has the title of the album, and then he has the titles of all the songs, and he just goes, "Okay, let's figure out what we can do with this." And that to me would be a terrible way for me, but more
yeah,
power to
yeah,
people. So I mean, people have so many different creative differences, and that's one thing that we've really found out. So now we go to our favorite part of the podcast and the audience favorite podcast, and well, also my personal favorite, where it's called the 5 questionnaire, where I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and we're going to see how your responses go with everyone else that we've had on the show. So for our first question, out of all the songs that have ever been written in the history of music, what is one song that you personally wish you would come up with yourself?
Oh man, oh man. Um. Oh wow. Probably. Um. Oh man. Probably Hotel California by the
Yep.
Eagles. Yeah, I wish I had written that song. That's a good song.
Absolutely. And I'm not going to lie, one of the inspirations for me doing this podcast was I watched the Eagles documentary of their whole
Yeah.
band thing, like the 3 hour long thing. And I was like, damn, if these guys could do that. So that's actually one of my big inspirations. So yeah, that's huge. And
Yeah,
yeah,
me too. Me
Yeah,
too.
and that was one of the best documentaries I've ever seen when they did the whole band thing. Yeah, that I was
Yeah.
hooked on it. I haven't watched it since, but I definitely got to go and watch it again
I,
because I really, really
I've
enjoyed it.
watched it a few times, but
Yeah.
man, like I was saying, drama, man. Just
Oh, yeah.
drama, drama.
Unnecessary drama too, and it's like, dude, you guys, come
Unnecessary
on.
drama.
If you were a band that's considered like the best American rock band of all time, it's like you would kind of just say, hey, let's put our shitty differences aside and just play, kind of like what the Rolling Stones do. You can't tell me that the Rolling Stones don't have massive amounts of drama, but they realize, hey, we're the goddamn Rolling Stones. We have to play music
Right.
for people. So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
yeah. That's totally it. So now, out of all the artists that have ever lived, dead or alive, doesn't matter. You can choose dead or alive, either one. If you could
Okay.
perform live for one show with any artist, who would it be?
Um. Jim Morrison and the Doors. I would love to open for them. I would love to open for the Doors for sure.
Yeah.
Huge inspiration for me.
Yeah, that would be amazing. So now, out of all the venues on the planet, if you could play at any venue on Earth, where would it be?
Oh man. Red Rock in Colorado. I think
Yep,
is the venue.
Red
Yeah.
Rocks. Yep. That is
Yeah,
our most popular answer by far. I mean, our second place
yeah,
is Madison Square Garden, but Red Rocks is by far the
yeah.
most popular. For me, I do Slane Castle in Ireland. That would
Hell
be
yeah,
that would be my
hell
place.
yeah.
That is definitely a great venue too. So now we get to the real nitty gritty. What is a guilty pleasure song that you enjoy that most other people would never guess?
Guilty pleasure song. Probably "Shake It Off" by Taylor Swift. That's a
Ooh,
good song.
yeah.
That's a very, very good song.
I know
She's a great
a
artist.
lot of people hate on T Swift, but
Yeah,
she has some
yeah,
talent.
she
I don't get it.
does.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a
I
great
love
one.
that song.
Yeah, that is a great song. So now for our final question of the questionnaire segment, and this is our most controversial one. If you had the all-knowing power to sort of make it that an artist would never have existed, and I mean as an artist they'd never exist. You're not killing this person. We'll just say
Right.
they decide to become like a plumber, they decide to do some other occupation, but they're not a musician. None of their music ever existed. No one ever knew that they existed. Who would you do that to if you had the all-knowing power to?
I would probably do it to Imagine Dragons because
Ooh.
we get compared to them sometimes, and you know what? You guys move over, guys. Like let us take the limelight. And those guys, they're great.
Yeah.
They're great. I love them. Just move over, guys.
Yeah.
Enough of you guys.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they have been so oversaturated in the media for sure. So I always love to ask this question now that we're done with the questionnaire portion. What was the first song that you guys came up with as a band?
As Mr. Call or Silver Pup?
We could do Silver Pup and then Mr. Call.
First song by Silver Pup was called "Till I Die," one I wrote. Um, and then the first song as Mr. Call, I think was it was "Living It Up." That was it was the first real song that we came out with. That was really, really good.
And
Yeah.
you say that you take a lot of inspiration from stuff that happens in your life for your lyrics. Are there any certain themes that you explore more than anything else in your lyrics?
I try to really broaden my horizons with that. Uh, I focus a lot of like how I feel personally, like the shitty part of myself of like why do I feel like this, and how I'm right, like my insecurities. Basically, yeah, I focus on that and like why am I like this? Okay, let me write about it.
Yeah. I mean, we get so much of that. And then your new single Ghost, what is I mean, you said the inspiration for that, but when it comes to releasing those singles, what was the process like for you guys?
We actually, it's a funny thing. We've had that song for ever since Silver Pup was around. That song's been through so many transitions of different things. It was like a hard rock song at first that we played as Silver Pup. Then we switched it up and it became this like kind of cool, like sexy ish. Then it became some like swamp monster kind of thing where you could see it in Duck Dynasty or whatever. And then we left the song alone. Like, you know what, the song isn't working. And it wasn't until our we had to let go of our drummer and we got a new one. His name's Tyler. He's a great guy. And our new guitarist, Lyle, he's a great guy. So really, only from Silver Pup is me and the singer left. But now from Mr. Call is me, the guitarist, drummer, and singer. Our keyboardist actually ended up quitting because of our old drummer.
Oh.
That's his own story. But but we actually, as a three, before we even got our current drummer, uh, we had to do something. It was three of us, me, Lyle, and Joe, just nothing. We have no drummer. We have no keyboards. We're not even a band. We're going through so much kind of just bullshit in general. We have to just write something. So we ended up bringing back Ghost, and we went into Joe's, as he calls it the shoppice. It's a little shop office in his backyard, and we kind of just wrote in there. We did all these particular things to the song and changes and yes and no's and recordings and yeah, and a lot of shit talking, but funny shit talking to each other, mainly on me. I don't know because when I try to describe something to them in a song, it doesn't really come out how I want it to, and I'm not very analytical with music, and like I just say, no, go back to that part in that song where it goes boo 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 right before the hi hat comes in. And, like, I'll say shit like that, and then they look at me like, "What are you even talking about? Shut up." So we came out with Ghost
Yeah.
after that.
That's awesome. And being in a band, I sort of like to describe it as you learn so much more about sort of cooperation and sort of getting along with people than almost any other thing. But is it hard at times knowing that just one bad day could result in, everything kind of falling apart, you guys sort of like breaking up? Is that ever hard? Do you guys ever feel that sometimes you're kind of like walking on eggshells, just trying to maintain order and maintain, that peace in the band?
That's how I felt with our old drummer.
Mhm.
Like, any bad day would ruin the band, and that's kind of what happened. It was a very bad day and a very bad night, actually, which resulted into this huge dramatic thing, and it was basically the end of the band. And but Joe and Lyle and I still had the vision, and we still wanted to work with what we had, and it was 10 steps back for sure. But now we're back on our feet and we're starting to play shows. We got a show actually tomorrow night in Santa Monica called Trip, or the venue is called Trip. And right now I can positively say that the four people that I'm with, we can talk shit to each other and we can work hard and we're good. Like, there's always going to be, something like that we have to deal with, but these guys, these guys are good. I feel real good.
I cannot stress how important enough that is to have that be able to shit talk and have that being able to goof around. That is so important. We've had bands on this podcast and just you can tell which are the ones that really get along and could really be successful, or the ones that can crack jokes at each other. We've had bands on here where it's sort of like standing on eggshells, where you just you got to make sure you're saying the right stuff. But I just
Yeah.
that is such an important aspect. And I always love to ask, as someone that has come up with lyrics themselves, you have, what, in your opinion, constitutes a good song? Is there a certain formula that you look for in a song as to that makes it good as opposed to just an average bland song?
Um, I'm gonna tell you right now, the melody. I'm melody focused. I don't care really about the lyrics. The lyrics will come. The melodies was the most important, and that's what I kind of like. I can write anything, right? You can write anything, but if you don't have a good melody, then your song kind of sucks, honestly. So, melody, man, that's the best thing I can say. Melody.
We've had some singles, or you've had some singles that have been released. Have you guys released an album yet, or are you currently working on one?
No, we're just gonna, like, even today with music going around, like, it's not really worth it to release an album when nobody knows who we are,
Mhm.
So we're gonna just do singles and singles and spend extra care on our singles, and find the right sounds, and just kind of, we're still even trying to find our sound and how we want to, like, be as a band. So yeah, we're just still working on singles.
Yeah. And like you said, you're working on your sound. How is that going? Has that been a struggle, sort of finding that sound of who you guys are personally, or is it sort of the process where you guys are just trying out everything?
Yeah, we're trying out everything, and I think it's always been a struggle. Um, for me, especially because I like the idea of more electronic stuff, but then I like to keep it simple as well. But I also like my indie stuff, and yeah, it's strange. Like, I'm still trying to figure it out. I don't know if I ever will.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll ever be like, I figured it out. This is how I like.
Yeah.
This is the sound I want. But we're trying everything.
Yeah. So I like to ask these three final questions to every guest on the
Yeah.
show and see how they kind of respond, because I do find it very interesting. So for our first question, if someone were to walk up to you on the street and say, obviously I love you guys make great music. I kind of want to get into music myself. What would be the best piece of advice that you would give that person in order for them to be successful in music? And by success, I don't mean that they, become these big, huge stars, but success in that they enjoy it.
I'd first ask, what instrument do you play? I'll kind of go off of that. But if they're not a singer, or even if they are, I'd say, what instrument do you play? Um, are you involved in anything right now? And they say no, but I want to be. And I'm just, I guess I'll just give them the same advice that I kind of took. Be like, you know what, man, just, or lady, or whatever, just do what you need to do. You'll get it done. Just do what you need to do, Go out, start playing with people. You'll figure it out. I guarantee you will. You'll figure out what you don't want and what you do.
Mhm.
But yeah.
And if you had never ever became a musician, never ever touched music, what do you think you'd be doing right now? Do you think you'd still be with the police, or do you think you would have graduated and become an officer now?
I probably would have been police. Yeah, I think I would have disciplined myself enough to be a police officer, and I think it would have been in that world,
Yeah.
and this conversation would never been happening. So
Oh yeah, that would have been that would have been definitely interesting. I mean, it's just so interesting to find that out about people. And then lastly, if you could go back in time and talk to the 18-year-old version of yourself, what would be the best piece of advice you would give him?
I'd say start working out right now because it's going to take you a little bit to get to where you want to,
Hmm.
but start right now and start playing with people right now because you jumped in it kind of late, but it's all right.
Yeah.
But start playing with people.
I mean, there's some people like Huey Lewis is another huge guy. The guy didn't even get famous until he was like in his 40s. So there's plenty of
Yeah,
time to just reach that level of popularity. So it's just about, taking that first step. Like I always, whenever I have health and fitness people on here, it's always about, people always make up that excuse of, oh, I'll work out tomorrow. I'll work out next week. It's like, no, just do it now. You got to get it.
yeah.
I mean, if you have that mindset, and the same goes with music as well. So where can people find your guys' music? I mean, I know you mentioned before that you're on Spotify, but are you on other places like iTunes,
Yeah, we're on
SoundCloud?
iTunes, SoundCloud. We're on all streaming
Mhm.
platforms. Just look up Mr.Call, no period. A lot of people like to put that period, no period. Just Mr.Call. Our latest single is Ghost. One of my personal favorites is Salem, and another one is Waiting.
Mhm.
That one that was a good. That's a fun one. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll definitely leave all the links down below. Leave the links for Instagram and everything. And do you have any upcoming shows other than the one that you were talking about tomorrow that you guys are playing at? Are there any big
No,
major shows?
no, not right now. We booked it as soon as we could, and we're like, you know what? Let's just play and let's have our friends come out. We're back. We're starting this thing up again. Just getting the wheels rolling, and it's gonna be good. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah. So again, you guys, I mean, I highly recommend you go and check these guys out. I mean, we got it recommended by Celeste, and she knows what she's doing. I mean, with all of the book, with her book that she released, and how big of a success it came, and just talking to her. So again, you guys, Mr.Call, go and check these guys out. And if they have any upcoming shows, definitely let me know. I mean, I love to plug it. And if you have any more singles coming out, or yeah, do you have any singles that you're thinking about releasing in the future that you guys have like a date on? Other than, I mean, you just released Ghost, but is there any other ones that you're planning on?
We're in writing mode right now,
Oh,
so we're just gonna write a bunch of stuff coming up now that we have our new drummer. It's go time. So yeah.
yeah, so yeah, we'll keep everyone updated if they come up with something. I'll definitely leave the links down below. And again, you guys, Xavier, we couldn't thank you enough for coming on the show. And lastly, is there anyone that you would like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
Uh, I'd like to give a shout out to Joe Taylor and Lyle, Mauricio, and Tyler. Ryan, I don't know his actual last name, who's our drummer, but he said Ryan's a lot easier than saying his actual last name. So the boys at Mr. Call.
All right, that sounds good. So again, you guys, Mr.Call, go and check these guys out if you're in the California area, and you never know. I'll be posting some links to their upcoming shows once they give them to me, and any of their upcoming music. So again, you guys, Mr.Call, links down below. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.